Chris Cowlin. Fan cams. Club news. Transfer news. Match previews. Legend interviews. Spurs winning. Press conferences. Covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we will be predicting the scores for the 10 Premier League games for match week 2. We're live on YouTube, on X and on Facebook, so please do get involved. Tell us what you think of the Premier League season so far and your score predictions for match week 2. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by a good friend of mine and the star of the chase. Shaun Wallace is back with us. Shaun, how are you?
How you doing, Chris? Great to be back on your wonderful podcast, mate. Really good. Always good.
Thank you so much for coming back. Of course, it was only a couple of weeks ago since I saw you last in the dugout. You got beaten by the Spurs legends. Talk us through that.
It was a really fantastic occasion, actually, in honour of a wonderful Spurs servant in just in Edinburgh. So I was asked to actually manage the beer lanyards against the Spurs legends, which is really, really good. And we actually scored in the first 40 seconds. So I thought, we were going to be really, really going to give you guys a good game. But, Aaron just was superb, actually, that day. Although I never knew that he actually played for Spurs at any one time. He must have been in the sort of Spurs under 10s. But nevertheless, there were a couple of ex-pros who were playing for Spurs. And they did very, very well. Very well. And it was really good
Shaun,
to see them.
I did give you a bit of banter on the day because every time I was filming the instance, you were way down near the corner flag. You were way at your technical area.
I certainly was. But as I say, it wasn't a strict Premier League rule, so it was a really good day out, and there was a fantastic turnout with a lot of people there. Actually.
Yeah. Shaun, another thing I wanted to ask you is many congratulations to the Chase because, of course, you've just been nominated for an NTA or two, actually, the Chase and Beat the Chasers. How can people vote for the Chase?
Well, as I say, if you just go on to our Chase website, just simply vote if you think that we deserve to win the NTAs, and that hopefully we do. If you follow my sort of Instagram page, there are various ways in which you can actually register your votes. And you've got to do so, obviously, by the 11th of September, which is the day of the award itself. So it would be really, really good. If you think that we deserve to win the award, then we'd love to have your vote.
Absolutely. Of course, you deserve to win the award. Shaun, you should be great at this. You should be great at these Premier League predictions. So I cannot wait to get into this. Last week, I was joined by channel regular Craig. Now, you get 5 points for a correct score and 2 points for a correct result. I am just out in the lead. After week 1, 14 points for me, 11 for Craig. First of all, Shaun, what did you make of the first week of the brand new season?
I thought it was some exciting games, actually. The only game I didn't see was the Leicester Tottenham game, although by all accounts Leicester should have been put to bed by Spurs in the first half. But as we know in this Premier League, this very, very competitive Premier League, if you don't take your chances, then they are going to come back to haunt you, and that's exactly what happened with Spurs. Spurs obviously deserve to take the 3 points, but good on Varley, that evergreen striker, who basically just goes to show that age really is just nothing but a number. So I think on balance that whilst I thought Spurs deserved to win, you can't deny Leicester that well-earned point.
Shaun, of course, we'll get into every game and get your prediction on them. But let's talk a little bit about your club, Chelsea. Now, let me start by saying you are the only Chelsea fan that comes on this channel on a regular basis. So you are very welcome. But how are you feeling ahead of this season? Of course, you lost your first game against Manchester City, but new manager. How are you feeling about the season and how are you feeling ahead of this brand new campaign?
I am not filled with any hope or optimism at all. I think the whole sort of policy, the sort of transfer policy that Chelsea have had, it seems that they're continuing what they've been doing for the last 2 seasons by basically thinking that they can buy any player under the sun, give him a 7-year contract, which I think is a complete disincentive to actually try harder, especially if you're not playing really, really well. You can simply sit on your contract for 7 years and know that you're going to get paid. The way in which they treated, established, seasoned, experienced players like Ben Chilwell, who only 3 seasons ago was a Champions League winner. He's an England international. Ryan Sterling, he's won the Premier League 4 or 5 times and has won numerous cups with Man City. He's got a vast experience. I'm not saying that he was on the top of his form last season, but the way how he's been treated, it's just been nothing short of scandalous. So, to be honest, I'm not really, having a squad of 40 first-team players and basically disrespecting about 20 of them, saying that you're not wanted in this club, you've got to try away with the first team, I think if nothing shown disrespect to those players. And I think the Chelsea faithful are not happy in the way in which the direction in which the club's going. And I'll just wait with interest with every game how we're going to be going. I mean, I saw the game last night, and for the first half, we were just absolutely pathetic.
Surely there's got to be major change there, though, Shaun. You talk about how many players they've got. Surely there must be major change. A new manager's taken over. Surely things have to change at that football club in order for Chelsea to progress.
I think Chelsea were progressing under Pochettino, especially we only lost once in the last 15 of our matches, and then they kept on setting targets, saying that we've got to get into the top 4, get into top half of the table. Then they were saying he's got to get into the top 6. He managed that and was still basically shown the door. They left him with little option when he basically said, "Look, I want to keep certain players." And obviously Chelsea's transfer policy that any homegrown players will be seen as pure profit, and they've got to be shown the door. And it's just then, 2 years ago we had João Felix, who got sent off his first game against Fulham, scored I think about 3 goals in about 20 appearances. Didn't want to play for Chelsea. Went off to Barcelona. Didn't play well there, and now he's back at Chelsea on a £45 million fee and on a 7-year contract.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who the director of football is, but obviously they never played the game, in my view. And the direction which Chelsea are heading in is basically floundering from mediocrity to sort of really bad.
Will you be sad to see Raheem Sterling leave Stamford Bridge?
Yes, I will, because of the fact that he had fits and starts, and for established international, you'd want him to actually, be a leader. But I thought that apart from that game where he didn't really play that well in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, where he was mercilessly booed and was taken out of the firing line, aside from that, I think he's done quite well. And I think that the fact that he played in all 6 of the pre-season games under Mascherano, and has now been told that we don't want you there, it's just ridiculous.
One of our viewers, Daniel Field, is asking, Shaun, what team does Bradley Wolf support? And I think I've asked you this before. Do you get much time to have chats about football in the Chase studios?
Oh yeah, all the time. Bradley's a die-hard Arsenal fan, always has been. So I'm sure he's looking forward with optimism to the Arsenal campaign for this particular season.
Shaun, let's get into it. The first game, of course, the early kickoff on Saturday is Brighton against Manchester United. Brighton, of course, have just won 3-0 at Everton. Manchester United started off with a 1-0 win against Fulham. Manchester United have lost 6 of their 14 Premier League meetings against Brighton. And Manchester United's away record in the Premier League under Erik ten Hag is won 16, lost 16 and drawn 6. Now, before we get your score prediction ahead of this game, what did you make of Brighton's win at Everton last week? And Manchester United, were they right to give Erik ten Hag a new contract?
To answer the second question first, yes, I thought they were right to actually give him the contract, especially in light of the fact that he had won the FA Cup and is the first manager in Man United's history to win 2 trophies in his first 2 seasons. So I think he deserves at least another run out. It's going to be interesting to see how he's going to cope this time, because he really is has to perform. Finishing 8th in the league so far as Man United is concerned is not acceptable. And now they've got Jason Wilcox, who's the director of football. It's going to be interesting to see that if Manchester United don't get off to the positive start that the owners demand, then he's going to be immediately under pressure. It's going to be interesting. I thought they played okay last week against. Who did they play? Was it?
Fulham.
Yeah, it was Fulham last. Yeah, they played Fulham last week, wasn't it? Yeah. So they played okay against Fulham last week, and they just about got over the line with a win. But they're coming up against Brighton, who basically are buoyed from a fantastic away win against Everton last week, and I'm expecting Brighton to maintain their lead at the top of this nascent Premier League.
With Manchester United, Shaun, what would you expect from them this season? What do you think their fans would be expecting from Eric Ten Hag's team?
Their fans will be expecting nothing less than top 4 this season. Nothing less than top 4. I mean, he's basically signed players for every position. I think Casemiro is the only person who hasn't got any sort of cover in that midfield. But the Man United faithful will be demanding that a club of Manchester United size, stature, and history should be not only challenging for the title, but at the very least be in the top 4.
What have you made of their recruitment, though, at Old Trafford, Shaun? Because a lot of players have gone in there and haven't quite worked out.
It is. As I say, it's not. I mean, Mason Mount in particular. I mean, he was basically blighted with injury. So he's had an injury-free pre-season build-up. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not he can actually stay fit, because Mason Mount on his day can be a very, very effective player for Man United. So I'm not too Marcus Rashford. This is a make or break season for him, really, at the age of 25. I mean, he really fell off last season, and as I say, he's hardly pulled up tree stumps this season already. But it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to perform, because if Man United are going to be challenging, and he has been retained as their sort of principal striker, he has got to really hit the ground running when it comes to goals.
Shaun, in terms of the score prediction for this game, do you want to go first or second?
I'll go second.
I'm going to go for Brighton 1, Manchester United 1, a 1-1 draw.
I'm going to go for Brighton 2, Manchester United 1. I'm going for a Brighton win.
Okay. Second game, Crystal Palace against West Ham United. Of course, Crystal Palace lost their opening game 2-1 at Brentford. West Ham also lost 2-1 at home against Aston Villa. The last 4 Premier League meetings at Selhurst Park have produced a total of 24 goals, an average of 6 per game. And Crystal Palace have won 5 of their past 25 Premier League matches in August, drawing 7 and losing 13. Crystal Palace, of course, they've got Eze, they've lost Elise. West Ham United have made a number of signings during the summer. Of course, got Lopetegui there now as boss. Shaun, how do you see this one going? What have you made of Crystal Palace? Because they've also got a new manager who came in last season, has done a fairly decent job since he's been there. West Ham, new manager.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you see this one going?
Well, I thought Crystal Palace, if you're talking about form in the last 7 games of last season, they were absolutely fantastic. Now that Elise's gone to Bayern Munich, I think their centre forward, who obviously played for France in the sort of Olympic Games, again, he's got to. Obviously, he's just come back from a very hard sort of summer playing for France, but I thought last week that goal that Eze had chalked off was a bit harsh. I thought.
Yeah.
I think that should. Yeah, I thought it was very, very harsh. West Ham played okay last week without again pulling up any trees. Remember, they are having a sort of transition in terms of their team. Loads of new players coming in, need to actually bed in. I think their manager, who I rate highly, actually, the former Real Madrid manager as well. I think he managed Spain as well. So it's going to take time for the West Ham fans to actually see how this team, this new team, are going to develop. But nevertheless, I still think that both teams, although will go for it, I reckon it's going to be sort of honours even.
What would be the ambitions for both of these clubs, Shaun, this season?
I think with the money spent by West Ham, I think they are really going to be looking to get inside the top 10, if not higher. They've got some potentially exciting players. Crystal Palace, obviously, they finished, I think, 10th last year. It looks like Gay is going to be on his way to Newcastle, so they need to replace those players quickly. And the one thing I've noticed about Crystal Palace is that they can find gems. I mean, Elise, remember he came from Reading, but what I find really sad and dispiriting was that Elise was a former Chelsea youngster who they let again slip through the fingers. So I think Crystal Palace do have a knack of finding good players, giving them a chance to actually perform in the Premier League. Look at Adam Wharton; he hit the ground running when he came in January. And managed to get into the England squad for the European Championships. So I think those teams will do fairly well. I think West Ham can do really well if they get those players gelling. But I still think that for tomorrow's fixture at Selhurst Park, that will be honours even.
Shaun, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. What are you going to go for?
I'm going for 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Interesting. Right, next game, Fulham against Leicester City. Of course, Leicester drew against my club Spurs on Monday evening. Fulham lost at Manchester United 1-0 in the opening game of the new season. Marco Silva has stated that new signing Sander Berge is not ready to start this game. Leicester City, of course, have just bought Oliver Skipp from Spurs. Fulham won both Premier League meetings last time the sides met in 2022-2023. And the last time they met, Fulham won 5-3 in the last fixture at Craven Cottage. What do you make of this game? What do you make of these clubs?
Again, I think that Leicester's aim is obviously to try and finish 17th. If they finish 17th in this league, it's going to be a successful season for them. And obviously, hanging over their head is the potential of a points deduction. So, they've got a very good manager in Steve Cooper, who I thought was very unlikely to lose his job at Nottingham Forest. But again, so far as Leicester concerned, they really have got to try and get as many points as they possibly can in the early season stages of this campaign. In saying that, I thought Fulham played well without being threatening. Their striker Muniz, who had a really purple patch spell during the season last year when he was scoring all those goals. Again, he's going to be leading the line for them, and he really does need to start to open his account. But in saying that, I still think that Fulham will have a bit too much of them, especially playing at home.
Shaun, what have you made of the job that Marco Silva has done at Fulham?
I think he's done a very, very good job. Again, it's a really good manager who gets the best out of his players. And I think he's got players who really want to play for him. Because you remember the last time when Fulham were in the Premier League before they were relegated, they spent about £100 million on players, and it simply didn't work out. This time round, Marco Silva got them up, and I think those players who the core of those players who got Fulham up after being relegated, have that experience now in relation to what it takes to actually survive in the Premier League, and that's why they did fairly well, I thought, last season. For a club which has a relatively small budget and the type of players, you're not going to get superstars going to Fulham. So, they are a team which has got to be gelled together in order for them to actually really be successful. But in saying that, I still think they're going to win tomorrow.
Shaun, in terms of Leicester, do they have enough to stay in the Premier League?
Well, especially, they appeared to be running away with the Championship last year. Then they had that a dreadful wobble. They managed to actually get over the line. I can't see Jamie Vardy being their principal striker. They really do need to get somebody in to help share the burden. of Vardy. Vardy, the one thing which never goes is in terms of his, intelligence, in terms of movement. But at 37, he doesn't have that sort of explosive pace off the ball like he used to before. So they really do need players to actually chip in terms of sharing the goal load at the club. But I do think they will struggle this season.
Vardy can't have long left in his playing career. I reckon you'll be managing him soon in one of your charity games, Shaun.
Let's hope so. Be really good.
Score prediction for this one. I'm going to go 3-1 Fulham. What are you going for?
I'm going for 2-0 Fulham.
2-0 Fulham. Next up, Manchester City, of course, champions against newly promoted Ipswich Town. Man City, of course, beat your club Chelsea on the opening weekend. Ipswich lost at home to Liverpool 2-0. Pep Guardiola is waiting to see whether Gundogan will be available because they're waiting for international clearance for their former club captain. Manchester City, Shaun, let's talk a little bit about them first of all. Current champions. Do you expect them to be champions again at the end of this season?
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Please don't come on here and say you think them lot down the road are going to win it.
I don't think Man City are going to win the league this season. You've asked me, and I don't think they will. Man City, as I say, they're beginning to look a bit old in terms of their playing personnel now. You can't be experienced, and they've still got a brilliant goal-getter in Haaland. And Jeremy Doku has been a revelation and a breath of fresh air on the wings. But something's telling me that they will not win 5 in a row.
What's telling you that? Because when I look at their squad, when I look at their starting 11, when you look at their manager, the quality is just throughout.
You can't doubt that. You can't doubt that. But when we come to look at the signings of the club down the road, I am sort of enthused and impressed with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Well,
okay.
City and Ipswich, they haven't met in 22 years. The last time they met was actually in the FA Cup. Ipswich will be playing at the Etihad Stadium for the very first time. And Ipswich, their most recent Premier League away fixture, ended 5-0 to Liverpool, and that was back in May 2002. I can't see anything but a Manchester City win here, Shaun, and I think it's going to be a big one as well. I'm going to go 4-1.
I'm going to go 5-0, actually. I really do think they're going to put them to the sword.
5-0.
I like the way how Ipswich was set up last week. They played a really good pressing game, putting Liverpool under pressure. But you can only play that game for so long. And after a while, their pressing sort of fell off. And that's when Liverpool started to pick them apart. But I do think in front of, an exceptionally world-class team in Manchester City, that I think that they're going to have far too much of them. And if those chances are presented, then Erling Haaland's going to sort of have a feast day tomorrow. So I'm going for, a big score tomorrow, 5-0.
Shaun, I like Ipswich, and I would love to see them stay up. Very similar to Luton last year. However, in their transfer window, they've signed a lot of players. Of course, Calvin Phillips has gone there, but they've signed a lot of really good Championship players. Do you think they've signed the right players, and do you think that they will stay up?
I don't think they will stay up myself. Obviously, the team have got you up, have got to have the opportunity to see how well they will perform in that league. And it's been remarkable in terms of, only 2 years ago, Ipswich were kicking off in League One. So it's quite clear that those players, they love the manager, they can play for the manager. Whether or not enthusiasm and sort of hard work and commitment is going to be sufficient enough to actually keep them in the league, I'm very much doubt that. And sadly, I don't think it's going to be enough to actually keep them. We said the same thing about Luton last year. Luton got off to a dreadful start, and they almost pulled it off. But ultimately, class does tell, and that's why eventually they suffered the fate of relegation.
What do you make of them re-signing their former captain Gundogan I think that's a fantastic signing.
I think that's a fantastic signing, and why not? He's been a marvelous servant to Manchester City, and if he's available to help get them over the line in terms of experience, then why not? But I still think that they are looking a bit old now, Man City, and I think they may come in for that Celtic striker. The Japanese Celtic, he's quite good. He could make a difference because he's really cut it in Scotland, and if he came down to play for Man City, replacing Alvarez, then who knows? But
Shaun, when you're on this podcast again at the end of the season, I look forward to playing you this clip of you saying that you think that lot down the road is going to win.
Yeah.
They've bottled it the last couple of years. I'm sure they'll do exactly the same this year. Next up, Southampton against Nottingham Forest. Of course, Southampton lost 1-0 at Newcastle. Forest drew 1-1 against Bournemouth. Southampton are yet to record a home win against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, drawing 2 and losing 4. Southampton winless in 14 top-flight games, drawing 4 and losing 10. And Nottingham Forest, what an interesting stat this is. 8 shots on target in their game against Bournemouth, the most of any Premier League side last weekend. Southampton against Nottingham Forest, Shaun. How do you see this one going? And what have you made of the job that Russell Martin has done at Southampton and Nuno Espirito Santo at Forest?
I think in relation to what Russell Martin's done, he's been nothing short of remarkable. When Southampton were relegated, they were shorn of good players, shorn in confidence. I actually went to see their first game last season away against Plymouth, and they beat Plymouth. Jay Adams was in the team at the time, and then I think they went on a remarkable unbeaten run of about 22 to about 25 games. And again, they lost away slightly, as what happens in the Championship sometimes when you put that remarkable run together. But they managed to get it together, and as I say, they thoroughly deserved to be in the Premier League, especially when Armstrong got that fantastic winner in the playoff final. In saying that, though, again, I've not really been enthused or excited by the players in which have come to the club. And again, for Southampton, finishing 17th will be a remarkable feat. I think they'll struggle. They may have enough to actually stay up. But looking at tomorrow's fixture, I'm going for a Nottingham Forest away victory.
Southampton against Nottingham Forest. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Southampton win. What are you going to go for, Shaun?
I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Nottingham Forest.
Okay. Next up, my club, Tottenham Hotspur, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Everton. Of course, we drew 1-1 on Monday night against Leicester. Everton lost 3-0 at home at Goodison Park to Brighton. Solanke is out. He has got an ankle injury, so he will not be making his own debut against Everton on Saturday. Bentancur is, of course, out as well. Pedro Porro, Basuma and Odebear are all available. Now, Everton only have 14 registered first-team players. Sean Dyche has got a lot of injury problems at Goodison Park right now. Shaun, you are very welcome on this podcast anytime being a Chelsea fan, because you always speak so highly of Tottenham and Ange Postecoglou. How do you see this one going?
I see nothing more than an emphatic Spurs home victory tomorrow.
Shaun, what did you make of Everton's defeat, though? Because losing 3-0 at home at Goodison Park, I spoke to an Everton fan, an Everton podcast last night. Their hopes are just, about survival and about a mid-table finish. For a club like Everton, they should be going for European spot, shouldn't they?
Of course they should be. And next season they're going to be moving into that wonderful new stadium they built. But in saying that, again, they've not attracted the right players. I mean, they sold Onana, who, as I say, I think has grown into a midfield good player. In the last 2 or 3 years, he's sort of grown up physically. He looks more mature in terms of making the right decisions when he's playing in midfield. But they've not really significantly replaced him. They've gone for sort of cheaper sort of options, I would say, in terms of the replacement. As I said, the recruitment again has not actually pulled up any trees. I think they need to get somebody like Kieran Trippier through the door. He really needs to actually help steady the ship and give the necessary experience that I think will steer Everton through some really, really testing times this season. In saying that, when they had that points deduction, it seemed to sort of galvanise the team, and they went on that fantastic unbeaten run where they basically wiped out those points which were deducted in the first place. In saying that, I still think they'll have enough to stay up, but in terms of tomorrow's fixtures, I think Spurs are going to have too much of them. And I'm looking for a 3-1 victory for Spurs.
He's gone straight in there. I haven't even done all the facts yet, Sean. You've gone straight in there with a prediction, 3-1. I'm going to go for 2-1, by the way. 2-1 to Spurs. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than people think. And last season, we beat Everton 2-1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and a 2-2 draw at Goodison Park. And the 4 goals that we scored against Everton last year, Richarlison actually got 3 of them. Sean, what have you made of Richarlison in a Spurs shirt? Because a lot of Spurs fans, most Spurs fans want it to work for him. He had a good patch last year, but we need that consistency from him.
That's what you see. Sometimes when you come in with with a sort of big fee like he did at the age of about 23, 24, you've really got to hit the ground running. And as I say, what Richarlison needs to show is that consistency. You've got a really good midfield in terms of players like Maddison who can actually give that killer pass. But when those chances are created, he's really got to take them. Son as well. Again, as I know he's getting older, but he really needs to get back to the song of old, if possible. Sometimes it's hard to turn back the hands of time, but he is an experienced player. He is the captain and leader, and hopefully his experience in terms of what he's done in the past will propel Spurs to a good season. I hate to say this as a Chelsea fan, but I still think Spurs will finish in the top 4.
Who do you think will finish higher in the league, Sean? Spurs or Chelsea?
Spurs.
See, this is why you get invited back all the time. What have you made of Tottenham's transfer business so far, Sean? Of course, there is a week left. Spurs could still get a couple in, and Ange Postecoglou has heavily hinted at that in the press conference today ahead of the Everton game. And also wanted to get your thoughts on the signing of Dominic Solanke, £65 million. Is that well spent, or do you worry about that fee?
Again, as I say, sometimes Spurs do. The one thing that I used to couldn't understand when Spurs players used to complain that Levy wasn't spending the money is that they didn't spend big. They have spent big over the years. The problem is players like Ndobele, who obviously went for 65 million when he first signed. Those players simply have not worked out in terms of. Giving what the Spurs faithful want, a very, very good player who can basically perform week in, week out. I've got high hopes for Solanke if he can keep himself fit. Again, I think the key to Spurs having a really good, successful season is that Maddison this time has, got to show the same hunger that he showed in the first 11 games at Spurs. When he first signed, he was fantastic. Probably one of the best midfield players in the country at the time. As I said to you before, that injury he suffered against Chelsea when we came to White Line and basically turned you right over. He wasn't the same player 3 months after coming back, and that's what cost him, I think, his place in the European Champions Cup for England. So he's really got to hit the ground running. He's a very, very good player. And I think he could be if he can strike up a good relationship with Solanke, and if Solanke can recreate the form he had at Bournemouth, I can see him scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, we've both gone for Spurs conceding at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday. What about this for a stat here? Spurs could go 16 consecutive home league games without a clean sheet for the first time since the 1956 season. Wow. Do you worry for Spurs defensively? Because Ange Postecoglou, he doesn't seem to change his tactics. He doesn't seem to change the way that he does things. It is more like, the old Ozzy Ardiles of the 94-95 season of, don't worry, if we concede 3, we'll score 4.
Do you remember I said to you, I think when we met up after we beat you 4-1, I think I said to you when Spurs went down to 9 men, all Spurs had to do was play in a low block, and Chelsea would have run out of ideas. Now, that's the one thing I will criticise. Have some reservations in relation to Ange Postecoglou in terms of whether or not he's the man who can actually bring in silverware, because he doesn't have that tactical flexibility which you do require. He's committed to playing his high line. Was it Van der Ven, your Dutch defender, who was absolutely superb last year, but there was one game against Newcastle in particular when him playing the high line and sort of Isak was on his shoulder and we used to pull away, and Isak just buried him at St James's Park. So I think Postecoglou has got to show. I know that he's got a certain style of playing, but he's got to show tactical flexibility, especially when it comes to defending sometimes. Because if he doesn't, then, as you say, what you're going to find is that Spurs are going to concede goals which they needn't necessarily concede. Van der Ven is a very, very quick centre-half. Ramiro is a World Cup winner. Those two were playing really, really well in the first 10, 11 games that Spurs had, until one had, I think Van der Ven had the hamstring problems, and Ramiro showed a lack of discipline in terms of constantly being sent off. So those two really need to actually be constant in the Spurs defence. Not too enamored in relation to your left back, although I think, is it Udogie?
Yeah.
He hopefully he'll have he was all right. He needs to show a bit more sort of defensive nous than he did last season. But I still think, in saying that, I think that Spurs will finish in the top four.
Shaun, after the Everton game, we play Newcastle away and then Arsenal at home. Two huge games and two teams that are very, very good, particularly Arsenal, I hate to say it, at set pieces. So they are going to be interesting matches.
Yeah, they certainly are.
In terms of Spurs being in the Europa League this season, how do you think Ange Postecoglou will approach the Europa League? Because, of course, if you win the Europa League, you get in the Champions League. Spurs, the Spurs fans, including myself, we want a trophy. We are crying out for a trophy, and it is such a great opportunity, because of the different format this season in the Europa League, where the Champions League teams don't come down into the Europa League. It's a real opportunity for Tottenham, isn't it?
It is an opportunity, and hence the reason why I think that if they are going to, make a real attempt to try and win it, then they've got to get a really decent squad who can actually compete on all the various fronts. I still think that all it will take with Tottenham Hotspur is to win something like a Carabao Cup, and you'll see the sort of confidence surge through that club in terms of believing that they can go on to bigger and better things. But certain competitions they must take seriously. It's hard, Chris, to compete on all four fronts. But you've got to have the sort of personnel and the squad, and the players have got to realise that if you are going to be competing on all four fronts, then you're looking forward to playing at least 65 games at the maximum in terms of any given season, and you've got to have the playing personnel in order to actually compete. So Spurs really do need to get not just bodies through the door. They need to get quality. Don't adopt what Chelsea are doing. Don't think hopefully Spurs won't fall into that trap, thinking that. Not that they've got that type of money, but they get as many bodies through the door and think that's, we've got a squad. It's about quality players, not quantity. Yeah.
Sure, let's go to the next game. The late kickoff, 5:30 kickoff at Villa Park. Aston Villa take on Arsenal. Of course, Aston Villa beat West Ham 2-1 at the London Stadium last weekend, and Arsenal beat Wolves at the Emirates 2-0. Aston Villa have 8 new signings. What have you made of Emery and the work that he has done at Aston Villa? Because, of course, they will be playing in the Champions League this season.
Absolutely. I still think Arsenal let him go too quickly. He's proved to be a quality manager, not only at Paris Saint-Germain, where he won trophies. He also won the Europa League Europa League with Villarreal a couple of seasons ago. So this man knows how to actually get the best out of his players. He knows how to actually improve players. and he knows how to motivate players. So I'm not saying that they're going to pull up any trees when it comes to the Champions League if they manage to get out of the group stages, because obviously the format of the Champions League's changed now because it's been an expanded tournament to about 36 teams. If they can get in that top 8 when they get out of that group, I think they'll do very, very well, and I do expect them to do very, very well. Ollie Watkins, who obviously must be about 10 foot tall after having scored the semi-final winner for England, I think he's going to bring that into European football, because I remember watching Ollie Watkins when he was at Brentford. Very, very good striker, and I'm surprised that teams like Arsenal, probably Spurs. I'm not saying Chelsea at the time, because we weren't looking at players at Watkins' caliber, but he's grown up as a striker and has done very, very well for himself. I think he was the top English goal scorer. No, he wasn't actually. Second top English goal scorer last season in the Premier League. So he's done exceptionally well. So as for Arsenal, I think Arsenal have made some really good signings. I think they really already. I think they have. I think they're going to get Mourinho through the door, the former Newcastle player, who obviously has had a successful sort of campaign with Spain. And I think Arsenal are looking solid. I think the only jigsaw missing from their sort of portfolio is a striker who's going to put the ball in the back of the net. And you would have thought that the sums they splashed out last year, they would have gone for somebody like the Napoli striker who Chelsea tried to sort of court. Because I think if Arsenal are to get over the line, they really do need a goal scorer who's going to score week in, week out to basically get them over the line.
Shaun, could you see Ivan Toney going to Arsenal before the transfer deadline?
No, can't see it now. Unless there's quiet stuff going behind the scenes, no, I can't see that happening. I think that's Toney's going to basically see out his contract at Brentford, and by the time his contract runs out, he'll be 29, and hopefully he'll be at the peak. But I can't see it myself now.
Arsenal's new signing Calafiori was an unused sub in their win against Wolves. Shaun, overall, what have you made of the job that Arteta has done at the Emirates? Because in the last couple of years, of course, they have come very close to winning the title, but City have pipped them to the post on the last couple of occasions. It don't seem that long ago since a lot of the fans were calling for Arteta to go, and now everyone seems to be very behind him.
And rightly so. And he's a classic case of owners keeping their head and backing the manager to actually don't take a short-term view, but take a long-term view. And remember, Arteta in his first season won the FA Cup. People forget that. In his first 6 months as Arsenal manager, they beat us in the cup final in 2020. And it's only when he got off to that dreadful start, I think they were bottom of the league after having lost 3 out of their first 4 games, that people were calling for their head. But the one thing I'll always respect Arsenal for is to actually showing face in what the manager was trying to achieve. And now he's built a team of his own players in his own image. But I still think what's missing from them is that striker who's going to score the goals. I thought they should have won it last year. The year before, I think they just fell away because Manchester City were too strong, and that's why Man City did the treble that time. But I do think this time they will get over the line.
Yeah,
it pains me to say that, but I still think they will.
I disagree.
Okay.
Of course, I'm going to disagree.
Yeah.
Arsenal won 14 times at Villa Park, joint most at any away venue, equal with Selhurst Park. And Arsenal so far in 2024 have won 8 out of 9 away games in the Premier League, drawing the other, scoring 28 goals and keeping 7 clean sheets. What score prediction are you going for, Shaun? Because last season, Villa did the double over Arsenal, 40% of their Premier League defeats.
Yeah, and
what are you going to go for?
Even though I think that Arsenal win the league, I am going for Aston Villa victory tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, I am.
What score?
2-1 to Villa.
2-1. I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah,
I would love to see Villa win. Obviously,
I think Villa will win tomorrow. Although it's not going to change my view that I think Arsenal will win the league this season.
Oh, you didn't need to say it again.
I'm sorry.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Sunday's games. Bournemouth against Newcastle. Of course, Bournemouth drew 1-1 against Nottingham Forest. Newcastle beat newly promoted Southampton 1-0 at St James's Park. Bournemouth against Newcastle, Shaun. Of course, Newcastle, they look to be progressing under Eddie Howe. They got into the Champions League. They struggled with injuries last season. What do you think the future holds for Newcastle this season?
I think if they sign Gay, and obviously I think Tonoli's back. Is going to be back fairly soon. Then I think Newcastle are going to look formidable this season. I'm pleased that they're giving Livermore the regular starting play, because I think he's a very, very good player. Again, another player who was at Chelsea. Who really seem to have let slip through our fingers. And they've also got Lewis Hall, again, another player who was at Chelsea. But let's not dwell on that. I still think that they will do something because they have got one of the best strikers in the Premier League in Alexander Isak, who I was surprised he actually went to Newcastle, but because I thought he was a really, really good striker anyway. But I think he'll repeat his goal scoring feat this season, and I do think that a team like Newcastle again will be really, really up there. Whether or not they'll have enough to get back into the top four, we'll have to wait and see. They need to get back to the 2023 season when they really were, hitting their strides and scoring lots of goals. But Tonoli should be back. He's going to add that sort of midfield nous and sort of steely determination which he was showing in the early parts of the season for his enforced ban. So looking at Bournemouth, obviously they've lost Solanke, the player which they brought in. I think is it a Brazilian who they brought in to replace him or something? Is it a Brazilian? I'm not sure. That Brazilian. Again, he needs to hit the ground running. And again, Bournemouth are the type of team whereby, they are sort of, they're quick, they're young, they're hungry. They've got a very, very good manager. But in saying that, I still think they'll have enough to actually stay in the division. But in saying that, tomorrow, I still think I'm looking for a Newcastle win.
Iriola has done a fairly decent job at Bournemouth, though, Shaun, hasn't he?
He certainly has.
They seem to be a hard team to beat at the moment.
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, we struggled against them last season. I think we did beat them, but it wasn't easy. But they've got some, vibrant and quick young players. But they will be hard to beat. I've been to the Bournemouth Stadium on quite a few occasions, and it's a compact and lovely atmosphere, lovely ground there. But I still think Newcastle will have a bit too much into it. They do need to get Gay. If they really are wanting to be challenging, then I think they do really need to push the boat out and sign Gay. I think they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a fantastic signing for them. And no doubt, if they do sign him, he'll probably make his debut against Spurs next weekend.
That'd be good.
No, he won't. Bournemouth have won just one of their last 9 Premier League games against Newcastle, drawing 5 and losing 3. Newcastle, 0 clean sheets in their last 11 top-flight meetings against Bournemouth. And Newcastle are looking to win their opening 2 Premier League games for the first time since the 1997-1998 season under Kenny Dalglish. Shaun, what are you going to go for? I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 Newcastle win.
I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Newcastle.
Right, next up, your team going to Molineux. Wolves against Chelsea. Of course, Wolves lost 2-0 against Arsenal. Chelsea lost 2-0 at home against Manchester City. João Felix is available to play. Of course, you've got a new manager. James is still suspended, game 3 of 4. Shaun, talk us through how you're feeling ahead of this game at Wolves. Surely, if Chelsea want to be getting any European spots or progressing this season, you have to be winning games like this.
Well, that's what I said last year, but Wolves did a double last year against us, and they were fantastic when they beat us.
They've done a double against us as well.
Yeah, they've done double against us, but they did have Neto playing in one of those games, and now he's a Chelsea player. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not we can keep him fit. He's now inherited the number 7 shirt worn by Sterling, but in saying that, yeah, I'm not hopeful.
What do you make of the signing of Neto, Shaun? Because, of course, you've mentioned it there. It's very hard to mention Neto and not put injury or injured in the same sentence.
Exactly. You know, at one time he was touted to go to Manchester City, and there must be a reason why they call their interest off in him, because obviously there must be an injury profile which they're concerned with. And what makes it even more concerning is that Chelsea's record for actually their treatment when players are injured doesn't exactly fill me with confidence that if he is injured, that he's going to be back out on the field. Look at David James. He basically missed most of last season due to injury. Now, why is that? Is that in relation to the medical staff, the way in which they train? You know, those questions really have got to be asked. Gary O'Neill is, again, another manager who I really rate and respect highly. I thought it was very, very unfortunate to have lost his job at Bournemouth, but, you know, he came in the last minute at the beginning of last season and did a remarkable job, I thought, in the way in which he got Wolves playing. And I remember their first game against United, they were very unlucky to have lost that. Very unlucky, because I think they played United off the park. So they're more than capable of doing that. And I still think that Chelsea just look too evergreen. They look far too green for me to be going up to playing a team of like Wolves, and I'm not hopeful at all.
What do you make of the appointment of Maresca, Shaun? Are you a fan? Do you think he's going to take Chelsea forward?
I don't, to be fair. I hope he does, but I don't think he will. And again, it's similar to the situation whereby just like Graham Potter had come in at Chelsea, coming after having had a successful spell at Brighton. He's just won the championship at Leicester, and I think Chelsea are sort of seduced, like most owners are, that they're looking for a sort of a Pep clone. And just because of the fact that they think that having worked with Guardiola as his coach and assistant, that somehow that magic is going to rub off. But as I say, what I've seen over the pre-season games I saw, I wasn't impressed. I certainly wasn't impressed last week. I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing in not playing the goalkeeper we had before. And we put Sanchez back in goal, and I thought he had chocolate wrists in relation to the second Man City second goal, because I don't know how he did not save that. So I am not hopeful at all. Not at all.
Wow. Well, Wolves have won the last 3 Premier League meetings. Chelsea without an away win in 4 league games against Wolves since a 5-2 win in September 2019, and that was under Frank Lampard. And what an interesting stat this is, Shaun. Chelsea, last time they lost the opening 2 games of a league season. Do you know when that was?
We probably went down that season.
It was 1973, 74.
73, 74. Well, we went down in 74, 75. I remember when we lost to Carlisle 2-0. Both us and Carlisle went down that year. So... But,
there you go. I'm giving the Chaser question. I'm giving the Chaser questions here. How many? When you're on the Chase, how many football questions do you get? Do you get many?
Now and again. I don't get that many. But when they do come up, they know that I'm going to know the answer. So I mean, they asked me one the other day about. It was on TV the other day. That which of the England World Cup winning squad, as you know the answer to this, has always scored on his debut for every major team he's played for.
Oh, don't be putting me on the spot.
you know that's Jimmy Greaves. Of course, Jimmy Greaves. Jimmy Greaves scored everywhere he went.
Of course, legend.
Yeah, of course, he's a legend.
Shaun, what are you going to go for? I'm going to go. I know this might upset you, but you might understand. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Wolves win here.
I'm going for a 2-0 Wolves win.
What?
Yeah.
2. Wow. Okay. Right. Last game of the weekend, Sunday, Liverpool against Brentford. Of course, Liverpool have a new manager, Arne Slot. They beat Ipswich 2-0 at Portman Road last weekend. Brentford beat Crystal Palace 2-1 at home. Brentford boss Thomas Frank is hoping that Ivan Toney is back following all of the speculation that he was going to be moving. It is expected that he will be playing in the Brentford starting 11 on Sunday, Shaun. What do you make of this? Do you think that Ivan Toney will go and move somewhere? You know, there is a lot of speculation linking him with a move to Saudi.
No, I don't think he wants to play in the Saudi league. Why would he want to do that, especially after, although he had cameo appearances for England in the European Championship, he's had a taste of playing tournament football for England. And obviously, you know, if he stays in the Premier League and does very well, like I expect him to do, then he's got to be eyeing the World Cup in 2026. So I think that I can't see him actually moving in this transfer window. He's going to have 1 year left in his contract. If he starts hitting the goals and hitting the heights like he did when he first came off his ban, then obviously clubs are going to come flipping around. But I think Brentford are relaxed. You know, they've got a fantastic manager in Thomas Frank, who obviously knows how to get the best out of his players. And as I say, again, these are players who are not stars but can play football. And Buena is a fantastic footballer.
Yeah.
You know, he's a really, really good striker. So, yeah, every time they've played without Toney, they don't seem to miss him. But you know, a team with Ivan Toney in it is going to actually make that team, you know, effective and stronger. So I don't think he's going to be moving in this window, not at all.
Shaun, Brentford have only beaten Liverpool once in Premier League history, 1 draw and 4 defeats. And Arne Slot can become the first permanent Liverpool manager to win his first 2 league fixtures in charge since Graham Souness in April 1991. Talking a little bit about Arne Slot, do you think that he is the right man at Anfield following Jurgen Klopp?
I don't see why not. He was really successful at Feyenoord. You know, he's come in. It's a break from the sort of Klopp successful era. He's going to impose his own ideas, his own philosophies on the team. They seem to be responding to that. It's somewhat mystifying that they haven't made any signings as of yet. But as he said in his press conference today, he's relaxed about it. It does appear that you know, they've still got the firepower up front. Jota, who I think is a fantastic striker. Nunes, hopefully one day will come good. And although Salah is entering in the last year of his contract, I've just got this feeling that even if his contract runs out, that he's going to actually stay at Liverpool. I've just got this feeling he's just he's found the right club. He scored all those goals, and he's still fit, hungry, and motivated, and he can carry this team forward. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of if they get off to a good start, then again they're going to have a very successful season.
When you say successful, are they title contenders for you?
Yes. I think the principal title contenders for me are obviously the usual suspects: Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool. I think they are the title suspects. Just below that, I've bracketed Newcastle and Spurs, and the rest are just basically playing catch-up football. That's the way I'm looking at it so far. So, you know, I still think that, you know, Spurs should have cemented the top 4 last season, but, you know, they had that wobble, but they managed to actually pick it back up. And they did finish, I think, a very creditable 5th. But what will undermine Spurs, as I say, if Postecoglou persists with this tactical inflexibility in terms of defence, needs to actually be flexible in terms of when to actually drop off. Because as I say, you've got the insurance policy of Van der Ven, who's very, very quick, he can read the game well. And if you want the aggressive centre half in a World Cup win like Romero, you've got one.
Yeah. Shaun, score prediction for Liverpool v Brentford. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Liverpool win.
I'm going to go for a 3-1 Liverpool win.
Our predictions have been quite similar, actually, during this stream.
Yeah.
Shaun, last question for you. I know you've already said a couple of times, which I haven't liked, that who you think are going to win the Premier League this season. If you were to choose or predict the top four and predict who will be relegated at this stage, I know we're only one game in, but an early prediction, top four and who will be relegated?
Top four, in fourth place Spurs, in third place Liverpool, in second place Man City, and top spot Arsenal.
And relegated?
Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester City.
Wow, all the three promoted teams.
Yeah, I think they're going to go back down again. If Chelsea finish in the top half, it'll be a relief, and it'll be a surprise. I'm not expecting anything from Chelsea at all. Not at all.
Let me ask you, because of course they're our clubs, Spurs and Chelsea. Do you think that Postecoglou and Maresca, do you think that they will be still the managers at the end of the season?
Postecoglou, yes. We'll see. We'll wait and see in relation to Maresca. I'm not. Listen, I've watched most of Chelsea's pre-season games this season, and I just cannot understand why you're persisting with trying to sign so many players, knowing full well that you've got a full bloated squad, and then turn around and say, in a rather disrespectful way and in a rather public way, that 20 of these so-called first-team squad need to train away because we can't guarantee you minutes. Some of those players they signed last year. They signed a Brazilian young player last year, loaned him out, and now they want to get rid of him. Well, why did you sign him in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I can't believe you come on this stream. You're saying Spurs are going to win, Chelsea are going to lose, and they might not even have the same manager at the end of the season.
I'll be very surprised.
Well, I've really enjoyed this stream, Shaun, and really enjoyed talking to you. And you're always very, very welcome back on this podcast. Of course, we're going to have you on before the meetings of Tottenham and Chelsea, and hopefully we'll meet up at the games as well. Lastly, before you go, please tell everyone where they can vote for the Chase and how they can find you on social media.
If you go to my Instagram page at the Shaun Wallace or my Facebook page, I posted loads of stuff in relation to the NTAs. Go to the Chase website. Please do your postings. We really would appreciate it if we can. And obviously on the 2nd of September, we've got a Chase special whereby we'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary. So it'd be really good if people could actually watch that. 15 years, wow. Yeah. And the show, of course, is going very strong and it's absolutely fantastic. So keep up the great work, Shaun. Great to have you here. And enjoy the weekend, and hopefully we'll meet up again soon, Shaun. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And hopefully Spurs can get their first win of the season on Saturday. And it'll be an interesting encounter, Wolves v Chelsea. I'm sure Shaun will be watching with eager eyes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Come on, you Spurs.